is these things. These are the ball joint conversions for the Kingpin Datsuns. I'm at the point where they're completely finished. This is the last kit. I got to wrap it up in saran wrap, blah, 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 and be able to ship it. So I'm going to take some, it might be disjointed video, but I want to kind of do a little bit of a walkthrough. I've done some on IG over the time, and that got shared to Facebook for the group buy. But it dawned on me recently that I haven't actually given any of the details to the non-group buy buyers. So there's going to be 2 boxes showing up, and most people will know this before I even get the video posted, but there's 2 boxes. This is a liner that fits in a flat rate priority box, so it will show up in a flat rate priority box. This is all the upper control arm stuff. The lower control arm stuff shows up in a bigger UPS box, and it will have the lower control arm ball joints and the tie rod stuff with it. So the ball joints, I did label them all when I took them all out. So when you pull them out of the bag, you'll see different nuts on them. They look a little different. You know, that's thanks to Rock Auto. I could order exactly the same brand and everything like that, and they'll still come in looking different. I went through that in other videos previously about the differences between the 2 arms. These are the ball joints that came with the arms, so not surprising at all that there's differences. Anyway, I did mark 10L, 10R, because I was doing 14. I had to label them. So somewhere on the arm, you'll find a 10L. There's another one faded down here. There's another one inside here. Okay. So 10L, that lets you know that you need to push that 10L ball joint back into that arm. They should all interchange. It shouldn't matter. Better safe than sorry, because, you know, because of the discrepancies on here. You know, some of these came out of Canada, that kind of stuff. Dimensionally, functionally, they should all be the same. But there will be minor cosmetic differences and stuff like that. One of the biggest differences was the shock mount. But that shock mount's been changed on every one of them anyway. So anyway, that's the deal with the lower ball joints. They will match up. Now, some of you will get a bag like this that has all the tie rod parts, and I did post quite a bit on Instagram about the frustration with the tie rod parts. So if it says good, it is 2 complete sets, and as they're mounted on the car, you know, the turnbuckles will turn the same. So in order to get it to, let's say, just as an example, I don't know which way it's actually supposed to be, but to get it to expand, they will both turn top forward on the car, okay? The way they normally are, okay? So on this set that's labeled wrong, what it is, and I think I don't know which way I'll edit this. Anyway, I got 3 boxes labeled for right that were actually left. Okay, and I'm referring to the threads, because one long outer is supposed to be right-hand threaded, one long outer is supposed to be left-hand threaded, and that's how they get the turnbuckles to turn the same way. The inners are then opposite. You know, that left thread goes with the right thread, the right thread goes with the left thread. Well, since I couldn't trust Rock Auto to send me the correct left-hand or right-hand threaded long ones, what I finally decided to do, plus 2, I think they were out of stock. What I finally decided was I just ordered more of the right-hand threaded tie rods. Okay, so now both outers will be left-hand threaded, both inners will be right-hand threaded. You will find the other, in this bag, there's 2 outers and 2 inners, and then this is the other inner to make them both complete sets. Because what's in the bag, one of the tie rods won't go in the adjusting sleeve because it'll be 2 lefts. Okay, this way that puts a right with it. So you're getting an extra tie rod. That's basically what it comes down to. And on one side you'll have to turn the top, you know, toward the front of the car and to get it to expand, and on the other side you'll have to turn the top toward the back of the car to get it to expand. Don't hold me to that being exactly what it is. I don't know which way it's supposed to turn. That's just trying to explain the example there. So anyway, you'll get one or the other. It is a complete set of tie rods. When I started this project, I said there would not, I didn't say, didn't promise, didn't add any of the tie rod stuff. So you're getting, you know, a bunch of tie rod stuff with the adjustment sleeves and that stuff for free. It all costs me extra money in making these. Alright, each box got roughly packed the same way, so I'm just going to be unpacking it. There was a bunch of packing paper in here. Okay, so there's a bag here with the heim joints and the load spreader, stuff like that. I'll get to that in a second. These short ones, and I told Ted this wrong yesterday, but these short ones are the sway bar links. Okay, these long ones are here. You can throw away the bolt and the sleeve. The only reason these are in here is for the bushings, and they're for your tension control rod. So basically you're getting new tension control rod bushings that, you know, weren't part of the original deal either. So that's what these are for. So, you know, one for each side. There's no left or right to them or anything. This is the two halves of one arm. The two halves overlap, and then you run the bolts through it and bolt the ball joint on. These boxes here are the upper ball joints. They're just stock hard body upper control arm ball joints replacements. Okay. These are the caps that go over the ball joints. I really hope you guys can understand the explanation without me having to do every single thing piece by piece. So basically what you do is these get lubed up. You put the zert fitting in and grease these. Then you pull the zert fitting back out. You put these over top, and there's two little chrome, I'll show them a bit later, but there's two little chrome button head Allens that will go into here. And they thread into the zert fitting holes, and that bolts them on. I've showed that before, so I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time doing it now. These are the cross shafts. So this box is labeled as a 620. The only difference, the holes for the 620 are for 12 millimeter bolts. The 521s are for 7/16. Now I made the recess here big enough for the socket for the 12 millimeter bolts. So if you have a 521 and you want to sell it to somebody else who has a 620, all you have to do is drill these holes out large enough for the 12 millimeter bolts to go in, and that'll make it a 620 arm. Going back the other way, you either end up with some extra slop, or you got to make some thin sleeves or whatever to go in there. Since I have it sitting here, I guess I'll pull it out and show it. Alright, so this is the 7/16 bolt. I'm not sure I have a 12 millimeter sitting around here. So anyway, the 7/16 goes in, and you can see that, you know, there's hardly any wiggle there. Okay, but if it goes into the 620, oh shit, that's still not even that much wiggle. That's probably about the same wiggle the bolt would have in the factory cross shaft. So I probably could have got away with making them all 620s, but anyway, I didn't. And if you want to do the 521, turn it into a 620, just drill that hole bigger. Okay. These large 5/8 bolts are for holding the heim joints to the ends of the cross shaft. Okay. Loctite is to lock those bolts. So don't do it when you're first putting it in. Okay. When you do the initial installation, you still got to get it aligned. These will just go in dry. I don't have another arm to show you, but when these get adjusted, oh, I had to do these all in left-hand thread. Everything on those arms is all right-hand threaded. Okay, but so when it goes to the alignment tech and it needs to go one way or the other, okay, what they have to do is they have to pull the bolt out, pull it forward a little bit, spin it whichever way it needs to go, you know, to make it longer, shorter, and then lock the nut back down and check the alignment again. Okay, that's the equivalent of what the stock stuff has to do with putting shims in here. You know, if you want to make it longer or pull it back or whatever, it's pretty hard to make them long if there's no shims in there on a stock one. For this one, you know, if this was fixed, you know, shims would go in here and make this, get the correct angle and the correct camber. But these are there. So this is basically an adjust once and leave it. This isn't the style of arm you're going to want to run at the track or anything like that. And since I have it sitting here, this is the style that you would want to run at the track, because you can literally get under there even with load on the car. It's a lot harder with, it's better to jack it up. But then you can turn these turnbuckles, you know, to add more caster, less caster, camber, that kind of stuff. And then if you count how many turns you're doing it for, you know, after you've done it a couple times, you'll know. And then before you drive home, you turn them back and reset them to where they were, and you're close enough. There was a lot of reasons for not making this style. Just didn't really work out well. I make no promises with the load spreaders. My goal wasn't when I originally designed these years ago, my goal was to use them with torsion bars, not with coilovers. But I came up with this for the coilovers to help spread the load on the shock tower. You're going to have to watch it because you're putting on custom stuff, so it's not going to last, live, do what, it's not going to be stock. It's not going to be factory. You're responsible for all of it yourself, okay? You know, these may want to crack in here. You may want to get in here and weld more reinforcement to this. That's on you. I've never run coilovers. I'd just soon stay with the torsion bars. But anyway, that is on there, and so you'll bolt a bolt through here with the bushings from the shocks you buy, coilovers, whatever. And then you could either weld in through the little holes, you could drill holes and put bolts in. You know, you're definitely going to want to secure it to the tower somehow. But basically, it's just there to help spread the load on the sheet metal up here. Myself, personally, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if that'll work long-term for coilovers. This is all show car stuff anyway. So to roll a show car in and out of a building, drive it in and out of a building, or a lot to show it, great. You put it on the road, it's all on you. Sorry, but yeah, you know, there's no way I can be liable for all this crap. So anyway, there's two of those. Yours, I think all of them look the same. I had some extras and they look a little different, but should function the same. Okay, so as I said, the Loctite's for the big bolts because the Heim joints have lock nuts on them. So there shouldn't be any reason to put Loctite on that. And this is 243, so it's a medium thread locker. You don't have to use heat to break it loose, but you do have to use tools. So the lightweight thread lockers are for really small bolts, and you don't need tools kind of thing. You know, it's just hold it there. Anyway, there's two Allens in here. The big Allen is for the bigger Allen bolts, button heads here, that go through the upper control arm and hold the ball joint in. Okay, and there's the two little chrome ones that hold the cap on top of the ball joint after you're done greasing it. Anyway, these are the bolts for the cross shaft. These could use Loctite as well, but the cross shaft is extremely rigid. There is lock washers in here. Personally, I would probably put some Loctite on it. One vial in here, you only need a couple of drops per bolt. And I think I put 2 in here. So if you need more than that, you're going to have to go get it. I order that from R.S. Hughes or McMaster Carr. Okay, so first off, there's 4 rod ends, okay? Technically, they're rod ends. That is a Heim joint, that style. But you can get rod ends that aren't Heim joint. I have some sitting over there. It's just a chunk of metal with a hole drilled in it. It's a rod end. So this is a rod end with a Heim joint connection. There's 4 of those. They all go in the end of the cross shafts like I showed on the blue one there, Nat. These bolts are the shock mount bolts for the lower mount. The 4 silver nuts in here are the lock nuts for the Heim joints. Okay, this is the same as one of the bolts. What I opted for on the bolt was to be long enough to get a little bit of double shear. It just goes in because this is a 3D print of the ones that I made and welded to the lower control arms. So if you want a little bit more engagement than what's there, take the washer off. Okay, it's not so long that it sticks out the other side here. If you want it to be prettier, you know, once you get the lock nut on here, get it tightened down the way you want it, you know, cut the end off. But you're still going to want to chamfer it, and then you're going to end up with no coating protection on the end of the bolt. I don't imagine anybody's going to do that. They're just going to throw the bolt in. But I could have made it to where it came out that far, but it would have just been threads there, and I'd much rather have it in a double shear. So these are also at that size because there's two options for the coil, okay, as far as the lower shock mount goes. This one is the urethane bushing. This is the one I would get. That'd be my preference. There is a steel sleeve in it, okay, and I think it comes in it already. If it doesn't, you got to take the sleeve out, or it's out already. You get the bushing pushed into the bottom, and then you put the sleeve in. And I'm sure you're going to want to use some silicone grease to make all that fit, because I had a hell of a time getting this out of the shock absorber. But anyway, the shock mount is set so that it's the right width for that. Okay, if you decide you want a Heim mount, okay, what's the other, spherical bearing mount is the other term they use. If you decide you want that, you're going to have to figure out the washers and stuff for spacing. And it could be too that in order to get the shock more straight up and down, you know, you may want to offset one side to the other. Okay, you won't be able to do that with the urethane. But the urethane will allow it to flex over a little bit. This will flex over too, so your call. I can't handhold and do all these tiny little details. If it's beyond your capability to figure this kind of stuff out and do this stuff, pay somebody else to install it, okay? These are custom parts. This isn't a 100%, you know, bolt on everything. You just throw it at it and it falls in and goes together itself. You know, I have done so much friggin' work to get it to this point, but you have to have a level of ability and competence on your own to finish it, okay? So, anyway, a lot of people have asked about the shock absorber. The option I built this around because I did this design years ago for Bori when he built his Dat Stang, okay? And this is basically the shock we used. The top here, okay, is threaded. So if you really want to modify your shock tower and make it so it's got a pass-through bolt instead of bayonet style, this comes off of here, okay? So when you order your shock, you need to make sure you order it with this option, okay? And then these are the 3-inch coils. They're 2 5/8 on the inside diameter. You can get it for smaller ones. I'm not going into that. You're on your own to figure out shock rate and all that kind of stuff. When Bori did his, it had a V8, a 5-liter, in the front of his 521, and I want to say he did 350-pound springs, okay? That, I did that, and that's the number there. As you can see, that's a chrome-plated 300-pound spring, 7-inch length, okay? The other one that you could possibly use is an 8-inch length. So you're going to have to get the spring compressed a little bit just to even get it in there. I'm not going into that. You want to go down that road and try to find a smaller spring and stuff like that for whatever reason, you go right ahead. Sorry if I sound a little jaded. I'm just completely burned out on this project. Okay. That goes there. This goes on here. And obviously you're going to want to wrench all that together tight. I don't include or have any tools for this if you're running, because as far as I'm concerned, the kit was designed for torsion bars. I knew that a bunch of the people wanted coilovers, so I went through the extra effort and included these, which I did not do the first time. Okay, I just simply told them, you want to put coilovers, you put coilovers on. Figure it out yourself. All right, so the arms are all set to allow torsion bars to be used. The thing is this is what's coming off the 521, the 620s. they all have this big pronounced curve in here because of the way the stock arm is built. The hard bodies have much shallower, okay? These are not included. If you want to run torsion bars, you got to go find these yourself, scrapyard, or I have seen them available new. I wouldn't say they were cheap. You need these. The Sunbolt, okay, instead of getting the hard body Sunbolt, which is longer, and I've explained this in other videos, so I'm not going to go into a great deal here, but the spline matches, whether it's the hard body or the 521, okay? So that basically says that, you know, that goes in the arm, that mounts on the arm like that, then the torsion bar will fit in here. So the stock factory Kingpin truck torsion bar will fit in here without any problem. This is the Sunbolt. I've done other videos explaining more about it and stuff like that too, comparing them. If you get these in the box, it's because you knew what they were and that you wanted them and you bought them and paid for them. I did not have enough to sell them to everybody, and I did not, and they weren't cheap enough for me to bother including them. Hopefully this covered the bases enough. Like I said, I will dig up the number for this and for the shock and post it. If you want something different, that's completely on you. The goal of this project, of this design, originally when I did it before, was to maintain stock track width and be able to run torsion bars. It's all still stock track width. The upper is adjustable. The very first design I did had solid steel plate upper arms. So the adjustment was just simply the shims. I think that's pretty much it. I need to get back to boxing, and so I'll shoot some video of the boxing, if only for my own benefit.